Hey folks, I'm brownbear. Today I'll be discussing the announcement of Age of Empires 4. If you're not familiar with my work, I've been playing the Age series for almost 20 years, going back all the way to the original Age of Empires. I started playing online in Age of Empires 2, played competitively in Age of Mythology, and participated in the World Cyber Games in Age of Empires 3. I've been writing about computer game design since 2014, and have produced a number of works on real-time strategy, including a comparison between StarCraft and Age of Empires, and an in-depth design commentary series on StarCraft 2. Today I'd like to discuss franchising, specifically some of its associated problems. Age of Empires 4 is the fifth iteration in the mainline Age of Empires series. Companies franchise games primarily for financial reasons. Franchises come with a built-in audience, pre-existing art, sound, and other assets, and a fleshed out and proven game design. Sometimes developers will even reuse the same engine, saving tons of development time and getting a lot more mileage out of the expertise they've built by using it. In combination, these factors dramatically lower the investment required to build a new game. Contrast that with the risks associated with new intellectual property. Most everything needs to be built from scratch, and even a well-designed game can falter if its marketing isn't exactly right. Cliff Bleszinski, former creative director at Epic Games and the lead designer on Gears of War, put it this way. Most consumers view many blockbuster franchises as the name you know and are too scared to take the risk on new IP. $60 is still a lot of money to ask people for, and to ask them to make that bet multiple times per year? Gamers are picky, they're smart. The Age series is a beloved franchise. Its announcement landed on the front page of Reddit, a rarity for most game launches. The comment section was filled to the brim with nostalgic and excited players. Bear in mind, this was in response to a trailer that showed no gameplay, provided no concrete details, and mostly just reused art assets from existing Age games. Ensemble Studios, creators of the original Age series, were disbanded by Microsoft in 2009. Furthermore, I couldn't find any evidence that the original design team had been brought back together. Quinn Duffy, creative director of the new Age game, has a background primarily in Company of Heroes. None of this is criticism. I'm merely pointing out that franchising is a smart business decision that ultimately doesn't have much to do with the underlying game design. The massive positive reaction to what was effectively a slideshow of 10-year-old art assets is a good demonstration as to why. But there's a problem here that's usually unstated, and it's related to the messaging implicit within the decision to franchise. The developer's pitch goes something like this. You enjoyed game number 1, right? Well, here's some more. Make sure not to take it at face value. After all, thousands of games get released every year, and you ignore almost all of them. Don't do that here. Just remember how much you loved game number 1. Don't read the reviews, don't wait until it's on sale, and definitely don't be skeptical. Just buy it, because it's more of what you know and love. Franchising is an implicit agreement between developer and consumer, financial safety and guaranteed sales in return for faithful execution on the core experience. Consumers pay more attention to a brand they're familiar with under the assumption that this familiarity actually means something. In other words, the new game will offer the same or similar experience as the previous one. The trade-off is that this ties the hands of the game designers. Mechanics, level design, world building, lore, art style, even minor feature sets are far more rigid than if it were a brand new intellectual property. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts retained the Banjo-Kazooie intellectual property, but removed the exploration adventure component, choosing instead to focus on pure mechanical execution. It's a great game, but derided by fans because it broke the core Banjo experience. Diablo 3 streamlined skill trees and focused instead on the auction house. Same result. Great game, bad sequel. Dark Souls 2 prioritized online play and accessibility. Not only was it heavily criticized by veterans of the series, it created a quasi-religious war between those who had been playing it since Demon Souls and those who came into the series with Dark Souls 2. The pattern is consistent. All of these games are amazing as standalone titles, but they're not true successors to what came before them. Age of Empires 4 is being developed by Relic, the developers responsible for the recent Dawn of War 3. That raised a lot of red flags for me. The third Dawn of War is a textbook example of the franchising problem. It reused an iconic strategy IP, but remade the gameplay into a MOBA RTS hybrid. This didn't work out very well. The Steam reviews were overwhelmingly negative, and the player population has already bottomed out less than 6 months after release. Much like Dawn of War, the Age series is more than just a license. A good example is its emphasis on reaching a wide audience. Here's Bruce Shelley, one of the lead designers on Age of Empires, describing what made this series work. I think it sold well overall because it appealed to both online hardcore gamers and casual gamers. There were a lot of different experiences in the box, and players of all tastes could find a game that really suited them. From a game design perspective, the statement ought to concern you. Trying to appeal to too many people usually results in a watered-down product that ultimately appeals to nobody. Age is a brilliant series because it actually managed to pull this off, and this was by no means an accident. Ensemble chose an in-engine scenario editor to make custom games accessible to everyone, published a book on strong scenario design, included tons of knobs and switches to make it easy to play with custom rule sets, segregated different modes, and included clear signage to ensure different audiences didn't get confused, focused on a broad rather than deep technology tree to ensure everyone could find a suitable playstyle, built their own competitive matchmaking ladder for hardcore players, and shoveled money into esports before the industry even existed, flying employees out to South Korea and allowing the games to be used for televised matches. In other words, a lot of right decisions had to come together to make the wide appeal of the series work. The company executed on a thought-through vision and made a number of non-obvious design decisions in order to deliver the right result. Base building is another good example. Here's a post-release blog post on Halo Wars discussing how the team approached this concept in the Age series. Over the years, we'd fought hard to hold on to the idea that nothing invests a player in his base more than building it himself. Lots of subtle design decisions went into this. The need to build lots and lots of buildings, a focus on diversity in structures and units to allow players to individualize their creations, sharply differing art styles among civilizations, including common buildings like castles, and the choice to use random maps to ensure every town feels unique. How about the 4 ages? That wasn't a gimmick either. The length and passivity of the first age enabled build order variation that contributed to a diversity of playstyles in the mid-game. Consistent inclusion of a starting scouting unit meant cheeses were always less of a factor than contemporaries like StarCraft. Age-ups were intentionally weighty traversals of the strategic decision-making tree, rather than merely a natural result of playing the game longer than X minutes. I could go on like this forever, so I'll simply say it again. The Age series is a lot more than a license. This announcement got the reaction that it did because Age was a genuinely brilliant set of games, featuring some genuinely brilliant game design. Furthermore, they were made by some seriously smart people. On the technical side, the networking architecture design of Age of Empires 1 was so influential that it's now become the de facto networking methodology for real-time strategy games. I'm assuming Age of Empires 4 is not close to completion based on the lack of gameplay in the trailer, so here's my message to Relic. Respect what came before, and take this seriously. Approach consistency and continuity more rigorously than you did with Dawn of War 3. I have no issue with that game as a standalone title, but I can't agree with the choice to franchise it under the Dawn of War umbrella. I'd go so far as to say that the decision to make the campaign a quote glorified tutorial for the multiplayer was a misuse of the IP, considering how important lore and story is to the Dawn of War series. Show Age of Empires the respect it deserves, treat it like the legendary series that it is, understand the core design and appeal of these games, be humble, and avoid innovating just for the sake of putting your mark on something. Don't make this another example of franchising hell. If you're a gamer, do your part by keeping the developers honest and pushing back on gratuitous design changes. More than anything, push back on the now ubiquitous idea that a desire for consistency and continuity is just nostalgic old-timers who can't get with the program of modern game design. It's no accident that Age of Empires was a damn good series. It holds up to this day, and I expect the developers to respect that legacy as they develop the next iteration. Alrighty, that's everything for today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I'd love it if you followed me here or on Twitter and Facebook to receive regular content updates. The relevant links are in the description below. All the best, and see you next time.